Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Acting EFCC Chairman Ibrahim Magu says Nigeria now a laughingstock among the Committee of Nations due to corruption. Minister of Information seeks media's cooperation in the anti-graft campaign. Former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdurrashid Maina, breaks silence on corruption allegations against him, seeks protection to testify before the House of Representatives. President Buhari inaugurates 30-member committee for the review of national minimum wage, orders release of 50% balance of Paris refund to states. And about 100,000 people living near Bali's Mount Agong ordered to evacuate as Indonesian officials raise alert to the highest level.
On Business News tonight, Fitch assigns final B+ rating to Nigeria's latest $3 billion dual tranche Eurobond offer. On sports news, reigning Africa Women's Player of the Year, Asisat Oshoala, is nominated for the CAF Africa Player of the Year award for the third row in a row.
The welfare of Nigerian workers is at the heart of the president, and that's why he has decided to discuss the issue with all the state governors who met with him at State House Abuja today. One way the president wants to solve the problem is to revisit the demands of the labor union for a new minimum wage for workers. He's therefore set up a tripartite committee to review the request, but is particularly asking members of the committee to consult widely in the spirit of give and take. The president, on the other hand, has ordered the payment of the 50% balance of the Paris Club refund so that state governors can pay workers' salaries before the Yuletide season. Our correspondent, Ibrahim Adra, reports.
The meeting between President Buhari and members of the Nigerian Governors Forum lasted less than an hour. Enough time to discuss several issues, especially that of unpaid salaries of workers in some states.
The president himself had expressed the need to make sure that every Nigerian, especially the workers, have a beautiful Christmas. And the issues of the outstanding Paris Club was discussed, and that was taken care of to make sure that the workers workers in the various states and everywhere in the country gets to celebrate the Christmas.
The ability to pay is tied to the Paris Club refund, which the president gives approval.
We still have balance of the first 50% unpaid. This is what the president said must be paid in time for the state governments to meet their obligations before Christmas.
The question then arose as to how such monies were spent in the past.
Still ongoing. But people who are not aware of exactly what is going on in the various states may criticize the utilization of the money. But the fact is that there's no way you can just take up government money and spend it and abuse it. It's just not possible.
The governors are happy with the president for steering the nation out of recession. Earlier, President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurated a tripartite national minimum wage committee.
My hope is that the outcome of the deliberations of the committee would be consensual and generally acceptable.
He urges the team to collectively bargain in good faith. Members of the committee believe this is a long-awaited important step.
This is actually the beginning of the process. The process is that negotiation will commence, where all the facts and all the issues will be discussed.
The team comprises representatives of the federal and state governments, the NLC, TUC, and those of other employers. The committee's recommendations will be referred to the National Assembly for input. There is, however, no fixed time for the Minimum Wage Negotiating Committee to complete its task. From the Presidential Villa, Abuja, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
The acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, says corruption in Nigeria has defied all efforts at eradicating it, and it is gradually making the country a laughingstock among the Committee of Nations. Mr. Magu was speaking at the 68th General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, where he pointed out that while some Nigerians blame successive governments for lacking the will to tackle corruption, majority of Nigerians sharing the blame. The Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, on his part, also used the occasion to appeal to the media to support the government's war against corruption.
It is the 68th General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria with the theme, The Nigerian Media and the War Against Corruption. The chairman of BON set the ball rolling by highlighting some of the challenges broadcasters face in the nation's effort at digital switchover, calling for a roadmap for the implementation of the DSO.
The worrying thing, however, is that as we try to come to terms with the disruptive innovations staring us in the face, we are being made to contend with numerous problems that are inflicted upon us, like disparity in license fees between the public and the private broadcasters. Did I say public broadcasters? No. Today, there don't seem to be public broadcasters anymore in this country because we all compete in this same commercial landscape for advertising. And that is anomalous. Government should fund the public broadcasters. We are compelled to pay a 1.5% levy on gross income even when we make a loss. And most of us do. We are yet to have a roadmap to the implementation of the digital switchover in Nigeria, and we are all in a quandary.
Top government officials were present at the meeting, led by the Minister of Information, who canvassed media support in the fight against corruption.
It must not be seen as the federal government's fight. It is our fight. If we fail to win by defeating corruption, it will simply overwhelm us as a nation. This appeal to the media to join us in the fight against corruption is born out of the fact that the fourth estate of the realm cannot afford to sit down on the fence as far as this fight is concerned. We are not saying that the media should not criticize us over our strategy for the fight, but they should stop mocking us.
Corruption in Nigeria is cancerous and has defiled every effort at eradicating it, while making the country a laughingstock in the Committee of Nations. While some of us are content blaming successive regimes for lacking the will to tackle corruption, I believe that we also share in the blame. As citizens and professionals, we have roles to play. The question is, how effectively have we played our roles of helping to fight corruption in Nigeria? As a media practitioners, for instance, how effectively have we been in helping to fight corruption?
The Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission appeals to broadcasters to acquaint themselves with the law that relates to political broadcasts as the nation approaches election season.
I want to remind our colleagues that the political season is picking up in Nigeria, and as we move closer to the election season in 2019, political broadcast and advertisements related to electioneering will become central to broadcast activities. We appeal to all our colleagues to please go back to examining the Nigeria Broadcasting Code and the relevant clauses related to the conduct of political broadcasting.
The consensus here is that the media as a key societal influencer should play its role effectively in the fight against corruption.
Last week, the nation was shocked with revelations on the reinstatement of the former chairman of the Pension Task Team, Mr. Abdulrasheed Maina, to the Federal Civil Service. Now, the saga has taken a new twist with what can be described as a final break from a long silence by Mr. Maina on the fraud allegation against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC. In an exclusive video obtained by Channels Television, Mr. Maina insists he is innocent of all the allegations against him and is appealing to the President, Muhammadu Buhari, to institute an independent commission of inquiry to enable him appear and disclose how the recovered pension funds were diverted by top public servants that are now allegedly after his life.
I recovered money for last administration and I recovered money for this administration. Now, people don't know this. Let me explain this. Most people may not understand this, but let me explain for Nigerians because I want the truth to be told and I want Nigerians to understand the truth and know what is going on in Nigeria. Listen, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm saying the truth. Now, our president, thank God our president stands for the truth. The unfortunate thing is that some people around him whom he has given trust are lying to him. This one I can attest to, and I can give you instances, I can give you documentary evidences. People portray themselves as if they are saints around the president. It's a lie, they are not. I recovered first, we recovered as a team, 282 billion naira cash. We recovered, aside from the 282 billion, we were able to bring information and caught 43 pension suspects. 1.6 billion, 1.6 trillion naira cash, investment, and properties were recovered. Now, they are threatening me, they are threatening my lawyer, they have threatened my brothers, sisters, they have threatened us all that I will be killed. In fact, somebody threatened my family will be annihilated if I go and testify. Now, this issue is, I asked Mr. President specifically, Mr. President, if you really want to know the truth and you want to be fair to the whole nation, give opportunity for everybody to come and present. Hearing, Mr. President, I'm appealing to you, Mr. President. There are so many things people are not telling you. When I get to that public hearing, I will tell you some things that nobody ever told you, Mr. President, because I never had the opportunity to sit down with you. And I'm telling Mr. President, I will give you information and documents that will fetch you over 3 trillion naira now in Nigeria. If I don't do it, Mr. President, give me 9 months. Within the first 3 months, I will show you 1 trillion, just like I showed you 1 trillion in this 2017. I will show you again, and I will show you, and I will show you again.
That was the former pensions boss speaking to Channels Television. You can watch more on the video of Abdulrasheed Maina on Sunrise Daily tomorrow morning. In other news, the executive is appealing to lawmakers to work towards ensuring that the 2018 budget is passed before the end of this year. The Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, made the plea before a joint committee of the House of Representatives, where she was defending the details of the 2018 to 2020 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. She outlined some of the steps put in place to ensure capital projects in the 2017 budget are not lost as the country attempts to return to a January to December budget yearly cycle.
Had planned to do, and which Mr. President has made a clear commitment when he placed the 2018 budget before the National Assembly, is to disburse a minimum of 50% of the capital budget by the end of the year 2017. When we were doing the 2018 budget process, we had placed in the call circular, in anticipation of this cutting of this current year budget in December, we have placed in the call circular for MDAs to roll over 50% of their capital budgets into 2018, and that was done. We really do hope that the National Assembly will support us to make sure that we revert back to this January to December fiscal period. At whatever time this change will be done, there will be a cutoff at some point, and the earlier we do it, actually, the better. But we have taken the measures to make sure that projects are not lost, that they are rolled over into 2018, and we also have, as the DMO has reported, realized funding from the roadshow, the Eurobond roadshow. We expect that at least 500 billion of that fund will be deployed during the course of this 2017, and we are projecting that about 250 billion from the proceeds of the Eurobond will be rolled over into 2018 to immediately start the funding of the 2018 capital budget.
In part two, after the break, the federal government begins discussions with Libyan authorities on Nigerians suspected to be among persons being sold into slavery. Stay with us.